Welcome back to the SEZ Fireside Chat, the podcast where we explore how Jamaica's special economic zones are transforming the business landscape. I'm your host, Michael Montague Jr., Manager for Business Development within the Special Economic Zone Authority. In this episode, we will be discussing some challenges that our investors face when entering or operating in SEZ, but more importantly, the opportunity that lies for you. Joining us for this conversation is one of our key architects in SEZ policy, our Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Ainsley Brown. Ainsley, how are you?
I'm well, Michael.
What are some of the challenges that you have seen from your perspective that SEZ investors face?
I would say that the biggest strength and biggest weakness that you have is the same thing. And that is familiarity and unfamiliarity with Jamaica. We've been so successful in tourism, for example. So everybody thinks they know Jamaica.
Yeah.
Right? And you come with a certain mindset and then you encounter certain challenges.
Right.
Any country that you go to, no matter how high they are on the ease of doing business, have their nuances.
Yeah.
And Jamaica has its nuances. And as a result of that, it's making that adjustment. So even the if it's local investment, not just foreigners, because the regime is not geared towards foreigners, it's geared towards money.
Yeah.
So whoever comes, right? Local or foreign, just invest your money. That familiarity is, as I said, a weakness and a strength at the same time. So yes, we have the lovely beaches and all of that, and that's fantastic. But when you start to get into investing in a special economic zone investment, which is a cross-section of different things. You have things related to land, things related to customs, things related to tax, that all have to be sorted out, and permitting in terms of construction and all of that, that type of stuff. So that's one of those issues that, I'm smiling because, it's both a strength and a weakness. So there's opportunities there for us to I don't want to say exploit, but
to benefit from.
Yes, benefit from. Another one I would touch on, and it's a subsection of that, is having to do with documentation. Getting the documentation right.
Yeah.
Getting it right, whether you are coming from the initial investment, or coming from the operational side of things. Mistakes cost you,
Right.
Because once that investment has been initiated, for example, and the title isn't right, or something was wrong with the lease, it cascades down and causes frustration on both parts,
Yeah.
the investor side and our side, because we have to work to sort it out for them.
Now, you mentioned earlier land being a part of some challenges that we have, and SEZ has a lot to do with the geographical location of the space or the investment. Owning a little bit on how that poses the challenges and the opportunity that a company can make from that.
So a special economic zone is land-based. We'll get into this a bit later, I'm sure, in terms of trends. You'll hear about virtual SEZs, but they all come right back down to land.
Right.
It has to be physically located somewhere. I try to use a particular framework to explain an SEZ. One, you have the land side of things.
Yeah.
Then you have the company. So you have to be legally something.
Right, yeah.
So in Jamaica, it's a company limited by shares under the Companies Act.
Right.
In other jurisdictions, they have other arrangements that you could use. And then there are the incentives. There's always some level of incentives. All three must unite, must intertwine. If you separate one, you no longer have a zone.
Yeah.
Right? You no longer have a zone. So you are confined geographically in terms of your commercial activity. Right? So a developer who builds out space, you're building out that specified geography. An occupant that goes inside, you're confined to that geography. However, there's no restriction on your trade. You can export, you can also trade with the rest of the Jamaican economy, because that's one of the significant policy shifts away from the free zone regime that we had in the past. into a modern special economic zone regime, and that had to do it principally, but not only, with fulfilling our WTO, World Trade Organization commitments, and that sea change or fundamental change has resulted in vast more opportunities than there were before, because there are no restrictions per se, or limited restrictions on you for exports versus trading with the domestic or local economy. Granted, we do want SEZs to be export oriented.
Yeah.
Yes, trade with the local market, but we have a small market. So, the world is your oyster. Use Jamaica as that location and, branch out to the rest of the world.
I'm happy that you made that point, because based on Jamaica's strategic location, we have the ability to trade with a lot of different regions and territories. Now, with the current global economic climate, with the wars, tariffs, persons looking to nearshore and having to consider some of these things, how do you think the current global economic climate would affect an SEZ investor?
That's a lot, but it's both negative and positive. And we tend to, unfortunately, harp on and focus on the negative.
Yeah.
It's a human trait. The negatives is, one of the biggest ones is uncertainty.
Yeah.
Uncertainty is the number one killer of investment and trade. People need to know what and who they're investing with, where their profits are going to come from before they invest.
Yeah.
They need that level of certainty to be able to lay that groundwork. It's like saying to somebody, yes, or a farmer, yes, I want you to plant the field, but I'm not going to give you any land.
Yeah.
You need the land to be able to plant the crops. So uncertainty is one of those things that has really put a damper on investments globally. However, it's also creating a lot of opportunities, particularly in the space of logistics. And when I speak of logistics, I mean you're moving something.
Yeah.
Where that thing came from, it could come from Jamaica, which is great, which means we're manufacturing, and we want to see that. But it could come from elsewhere to go elsewhere, right? So that's where that nearshoring possibility comes in as well, in terms of logistics and how do you move and support other person's operations. So because of that uncertainty, and also because the tariffs are driving up costs, people are looking for ways, how can I minimize my costs? They can't do anything about the tariffs,
Right, yeah.
but they can do things about their operational costs. So this is where the opportunities lie in terms of Jamaica being that hub. We long talked about the logistics hub, and you know, the special economic zone was birthed from that logistics hub initiative. Important to make that point. Now we're at that, it's used a lot, inflection point in history, where the global trading system is being rewritten. You hear sometimes it's broken and all. It's not broken. It's being rewritten. It's being transformed. And this predated, this transformation was well underway from, you could say, the early 2000s. You could put, if you want to put a date on it, you could put the major financial crisis in 2008 as being that point of that change starting to happen. You're seeing where south-south trade, that is, developing countries outstripping north-south and north-north trade. Yeah. Right? These are trends that are only multiplying now because of the tensions and the trade wars that we're seeing, and the reciprocal nature of things, where people are reacting. One country puts on a certain percentage, they react and put on another percentage, and it keeps going. This is actually, as much as it's creating that uncertainty, it's also creating that opportunity. Right. And the more stable you are, Jamaica is a very stable democracy. Yes, we have our issues, but just like any other country, but we're an extremely stable democracy. We are the third largest English-speaking country in the Western Hemisphere by population.
Yeah, which is very important when you speak about even logistics.
Correct.
So that is very, very important. I want you to tie in the point which you mentioned earlier with the Logistics Hub Initiative, right? How has that transcended? Just for some of our investors who are looking on, who would have possibly heard the term, but are not so necessarily clear on how it transcended into special economic zones. So just walk me a little bit from the logistics hub initiative to special economic zones.
Let's take a journey in terms of some of the investments that are around.
Yeah.
And a lot of people wouldn't know this, but the two major players at the port of Kingston, KWL, KFTL, they're both special economic zones.
Right.
There's also zones proximate to or touching those zones right on the port, right? It's all about building out an ecosystem, and it takes a little time to do that. And one thing benefits the other. So there's a symbiotic relationship that is there. So you have the port, and everybody understands things coming in, going on, imports, export. We get all of that. Let me throw in a German ship repair who's repairing vessels. When a vessel comes in, they're operating on a very tight schedule to repair, right? And it's also a legal requirement. If you do not do your regularly scheduled cleaning, regularly scheduled maintenance, you cannot sail. Can't sail, can't make money. Right? And literally your insurance will be voided. There's a whole cascading effect if you don't do these things properly. But we're attracting more traffic. So we already had traffic from the transshipment hub that exists in KFTL. And then we have the Caribbean's largest mixed-use port in KWL. So we already had that traffic coming in. Both of them are expanding and have expanded. So even more traffic coming in. You're attracting even more traffic from the perspective of German ship repair.
One of our SEZs.
Correct. Then you have West Indies Petroleum, right? Who, as an SEZ, supports its parent company's bunkering operations, that's refueling of ships. So you're attracting more ships, right? You're attracting more cargo that's being transshipped. You're also attracting people that are maintained. Then all of those people need to be refueled.
Right.
Also, there's another thing that's happening in terms of something called crewing, right? Where changes of crews happen, like the crews that are on the ship. So one of the things they try to do is time it when you're going to go get repaired, right? So the old crew comes in, we docks at Jamaica, they leave, and then the new crew comes in a couple of days later to leave with the ship. Then it can get refueled and all of that. But with the thing with crewing, people come from all over the world. So they're going to be staying in hotels because they have to wait for flights. They have to use taxis. There's a whole host of commercial activities that spin off from that. In addition, you have we don't have any airport zones yet. Right? Yet. But the activity at the airport to have a functioning, commercially viable dry dock, you need an airport proximate to it. Norman Manley is just down the road because there are parts that need to be flown in, and it may be an emergency repair. You don't know what you're going to find. So we need this part. We only have 5 days to repair this vessel, and things need to move fast. And that's what logistics is. How do we move things from point A to point B as quickly and as cost effectively as possible? And Jamaica is that hub, or we can be that hub. And in many ways, we are that hub. There's other opportunities we're yet to exploit. But the special economic zones create that platform for that I don't really like using the word exploit, but take advantage of. Take advantage of.
Now, despite these headwinds, what are some of the upticking trends in terms of the industries and sectors that we're seeing now in the SEZ and on the global scale?
Well, we're seeing, as I discussed, logistics, for example. That is a growth pole right now because it is all about how do I find a way to cut costs, given the increases with tariffs, etc. How do I find a way to cut costs and logistics, the movement, and also potential transformation along the way, because it's not just about the movement of goods along a supply chain, but how do you transform something from one thing to another or add value? You may not substantially transform it, but it may be a little bit of value added. So
Right.
that is an area for sure. We're seeing in the maritime space, closely related to logistics, but slightly different, particularly with the net zero. The net zero mandate that the International Maritime Organization has put out there for ships to reach, or the industry, I should say, to reach net zero. So you're seeing areas where the ports are being electrified. We have a little bit of a challenge in Jamaica, but there's an opportunity as well in terms of the source of that electricity being carbon based. So if it were to switch to solar or something like that, then we'd look at that, and then also fuels in terms of looking at methanol as an example, or hydrogen as another example, or natural gas, but from natural sources, biogas. These are some of the trends, all of which can fit within a special economic zone, whether globally or in Jamaica, because it matches our framework. So those are some of the trends that we're seeing. We're even seeing a little bit of a trend back into certain types of manufacturing, particularly assembly, but this is on the global scale. But this goes back to that whole logistics equation of, how do I save costs? How do I save money, given the current geopolitical environment that you have to operate in? So people are trying their best to shift production, shift transportation, and as I said before, the entire global landscape, the entire trading map, the entire investment map is being redrawn from what we have seen in the past 30 to 40 years.
Right. So let's just to wrap it up. Where do we see the authority? Where do we see the SEZ? What does the business landscape look like in perhaps the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, 2030.
Right.
So Vision 2030. We tend to reduce that to a little slogan, but it's actually a very powerful, I wouldn't say document, but powerful framework to move the country. And the SEZ do and will play its part. What I'm seeing is a much more diversified trading landscape, a much more diversified investment landscape in terms of where we get investment from, what we invest in, including I see a role for AI in terms of increasing operational efficiencies, working alongside humans. I know there's a lot of fear in terms of replacing humans, and you can't avoid some of that, but I see a lot more symbiosis there, people and machines working together. I see a lot of warehouses moving things to and from the port, to and from the airports as well. Sea to air logistics being an area where large containers or large shipments are brought in and then are broken down and dispatched back out via the air to for a quicker turnaround time, whether it be supporting e-commerce. One that in the next 5 years, I anticipate the change in the energy landscape in Jamaica as well. So cold chain logistics, which supports agriculture, which we're big on as a country. Pharmaceuticals, we have we've been gifted by God in terms of the plants, some of the medicinal plants that we have,
of limestones that we
growing, correct, that as well, growing in the country, and to be able to exploit that, we do need cold chain logistics. And but the big hindrance is the cost of electricity. But that I suspect within the next 5 years or so will change, whether that means further growth of renewable or some other arrangements being made. Another area is cooling via the sea. Funnily enough, cooling via the sea. There's technologies, for example, in Toronto, where the downtown core is cooled via Lake Ontario. And in France they use it as well, and in Jamaica, in some of the hotels they've actually used this technology. This is something that can be deployed and should be deployed in special economic zones to save money, save energy costs. And that is where I think our value proposition for Jamaica lies and will continue to be is how do we save you money?
Yeah.
And how do we then take that savings to make you more money?
More money.
So it's not just savings, but making.
Yeah, yeah. So very insightful, Sir Brown, and I want to thank you for joining us on this episode to discuss the hurdles and the horizon, or what the horizon looks like for investment in special economic zones. Now, for our investors who are looking to invest, or you've already invested but you're looking to expand, or to help you carry out your operational efficiencies, I want to invite you to reach out to us at bdev@jseza.com or call us at 876-619-7392 so we can iron out what you don't understand. In our next episode, we'll dig into the business side, understanding different SEZ models, strategies, and the opportunity that lies for your SEZ investment. See you then.